A flight attendant commits the ultimate, career-ending mistake. She doesn't just spill a drink. She doesn't just forget a meal. She looks a first-class passenger in the eye, a passenger who just saved a life at 30,000 feet, and she slaps her across the face. This isn't just a story of airline drama. It's a story of prejudice, power, and the kind of hard karma that changes a life forever. What this flight attendant didn't know is that the woman she assaulted was Dr. Evelyn Hayes, and she had no idea who Dr. Hayes was married to. Stay with us, as this is one story you won't forget. Dr. Evelyn Hayes was a woman accustomed to pressure. As one of the lead pediatric neurosurgeons at Johns Hopkins, her hands were steady instruments that navigated the microscopic, vital valleys of the human brain. She operated in a world of millimeters and milliseconds, where stress was a constant companion. But today, the pressure was different. It wasn't the sharp, sterile tension of an operating room. It was the dull, heavy fatigue of a 3-day medical conference in Chicago, followed by a 2-hour delay at O'Hare. She stood in the priority boarding line for Apex Global Air, Flight 722 to New York. Her first-class ticket, a well-deserved indulgence paid for by the conference, was clutched in her hand. She wore a simple but elegant pair of grey linen trousers and a cream-coloured silk blouse. No scrubs, no white coat. Today, she was just Evelyn. Next, a clipped, sharp voice called out. Evelyn stepped forward to the podium. The gate agent, a woman with tight blonde hair and a name tag that read Jennifer, didn't look up from her screen. "Boarding pass," Jennifer snapped. Evelyn handed it over. Jennifer scanned it, and for the first time, looked up. Her eyes, a flat, disinterested blue, raked over Evelyn from head to toe. It was a look Evelyn had felt 1,000 times before. The look that questioned her presence. "This is first class, ma'am," Jennifer said, her voice implying Evelyn had made a mistake. "Yes." "Seat 2B," Evelyn replied, her voice calm, neutral. She refused to let the fatigue make her curt. "Right," Jennifer said, drawing the word out. She scanned the pass again, as if the machine might have lied. "Well, enjoy your flight." The words were technically polite, but the tone was dismissive. Evelyn walked down the jet bridge, the familiar sterile smell of recycled air filling her lungs. She stepped onto the aircraft and was greeted by a flight attendant who smiled warmly. "Welcome aboard, ma'am. 2B is to your right." Evelyn found her seat, a luxurious pod with its own partition. She began to stow her carry-on, a simple leather briefcase containing her laptop and the conference notes, in the overhead bin. "Ma'am, I can take that for you." Evelyn turned. It was another flight attendant. This one, however, had the same tight blonde hair and flat blue eyes as the gate agent. Her uniform was slightly different, the senior cabin crew gold braid. Her name tag was identical, Jennifer Barlow. She must have finished her duties at the gate and moved to her primary role on the flight. "Thank you, I can manage," Evelyn said politely. "It's just, some of our guests in this cabin have very expensive luggage. We prefer to stow it properly to avoid damage," Jennifer said. Her eyes flicked to Evelyn's simple, unbranded leather case, and then to the gleaming, logo-covered Rimowa suitcase of the man in 2A, Mr. Henderson. The implication was clear. Your bag doesn't belong here. Evelyn paused, her hand on the bin. This bag contains sensitive medical equipment and personal documents. It will be fine right here. She pushed it in firmly and shut the bin. Jennifer's lips thinned. A faint, high pink color appeared on her cheeks. "Very well. Can I get you a pre-departure beverage? We have champagne, orange juice, or water." "Champagne would be lovely. Thank you," Evelyn said, settling into her seat. Mr. Henderson in 2A received his champagne almost instantly. The woman across the aisle in 2D received hers. Evelyn waited. 10 minutes passed. The cabin door was about to be closed. Jennifer was bustling past, checking seatbelts, her eyes deliberately avoiding Evelyn. "Excuse me," Evelyn called out, not loudly, but with the quiet authority of her profession. "Miss, I believe you forgot my drink." Jennifer stopped. She turned, her smile a painted-on mask that didn't reach her eyes. "Oh, honey, I am so sorry. We just got so busy." She bustled off to the galley. The condescension in "honey" was as sharp as a scalpel. Evelyn felt the familiar, hot prickle of anger, but she controlled it. She would not be that passenger. She would not give this woman the satisfaction. Jennifer returned with the glass of champagne, but she didn't hand it over with the usual grace. She practically slammed it down on the small coaster. A few drops sloshed over the rim. "Enjoy," she said, and turned away before Evelyn could even say thank you. Mr. Henderson, a man in his late 60s with kind eyes, leaned over slightly. "Dreadful service," he murmured, loud enough only for Evelyn to hear. Next Generation nodded, offering a small, tight-lipped smile. "A long day for everyone, I suppose." But as the plane pushed back from the gate, Evelyn had a sinking feeling. It was going to be a very, very long flight. The flight leveled off at cruising altitude, and the cabin crew began their full-service routine. Jennifer, it was clear, ran the first-class cabin as her personal fiefdom. She was all smiles and obsequious charm to the other passengers. She laughed at Mr. Henderson's jokes, refilled his champagne flute with a flourish, and discussed wine pairings with the woman in 2D. With Evelyn, she was a different person. Her service was cold, clipped, and borderline hostile. When it came time for meal orders, Jennifer approached Evelyn last. "And for you?" she asked, her pen hovering over her notepad. "I'll have the pan-seared salmon, please," Evelyn said. "We're out of the salmon," Jennifer said, instantly, too quickly. "Oh," Evelyn said. "All right. Then the grilled chicken breast, please." "We're out of that as well." Jennifer's expression was blank. "We only have the vegetarian pasta." Evelyn was an experienced traveller. She knew it was highly unlikely that a first-class cabin on a major route would be out of its two primary protein options less than an hour into the flight. It was a power play. "The pasta will be fine, thank you," Evelyn said, maintaining her composure. An hour later, as Jennifer was clearing trays, Evelyn couldn't help but notice the passenger in 3A, who had ordered after her, being served the pan-seared salmon. Evelyn said nothing. She simply opened her laptop to review a complex surgical file for a case on Monday. She would not let this woman ruin her journey. She would retreat into her work, a place where competence was all that mattered. But Jennifer seemed determined to provoke a reaction. She walked by Evelyn's seat and, seemingly by accident, jostled the seat, causing Evelyn's laptop to wobble. "Oh, pardon me," Jennifer said, her voice full of mock concern. "You should be careful with that. You wouldn't want it to fall." "I would appreciate it if you were more careful," Evelyn said, her voice quiet but icy. "This is expensive medical equipment." "Right," Jennifer scoffed, her voice low. "Just like your expensive luggage." She turned her back and walked away. The cabin lights dimmed. Most passengers started their movies or leaned back to sleep. Evelyn, her head pounding, decided to do the same. She was closing her laptop when a sudden, panicked call came over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, we apologize for the interruption. If there is a medical professional on board, please make yourself known to the cabin crew immediately." The voice was not Jennifer's. It was the younger attendant from economy, and she sounded terrified. Evelyn's fatigue vanished, replaced by the cool rush of adrenaline she knew so well. She unbuckled her belt and was on her feet in a second. She emerged from her pod and found Jennifer just exiting the galley, a look of annoyance on her face. "I am a doctor," Evelyn said clearly. Jennifer's eyes widened and then narrowed. She let out a small, incredulous laugh. "A doctor? You?" "Yes," Evelyn said, pushing past her. "Where is the patient?" "Ma'am, you need to return to your seat," Jennifer snapped, grabbing Evelyn's arm. "We don't need passengers interfering." Evelyn stopped dead. She turned, her eyes boring into Jennifer's with an intensity that made the flight attendant recoil. "My name is Dr. Evelyn Hayes. I am a neurosurgeon at Johns Hopkins. You have a medical emergency, and you are obstructing me. Take your hand off my arm, or I will have you charged with assault when we land. Now, where is the patient?" Jennifer's face went white, then purple with rage. She snatched her hand back as if she'd been burned. "Row 24, she spat. "But this is on you." Evelyn was already halfway down the aisle, her mind in surgeon mode, running differential diagnoses as she moved. The drama in first class was forgotten. A life was on the line. Evelyn arrived at row 24 to a scene of controlled panic. A young woman, likely in her early 20s, was slumped in the window seat. Her breathing was shallow and ragged, and her skin had a terrifying blue-grey tint. Her friend, who was sobbing, was trying to shake her awake. "What happened?" Evelyn asked, her voice commanding the space. The other flight attendants, their faces pale, parted for her. I don't know," the friend cried. "Chloe she ate one of the peanuts. She must have forgotten. She's severely allergic. Her EpiPen is in her checked bag. Anaphylactic shock. The worst-case scenario at 30,000 feet. Get me the onboard medical kit." "Now," Evelyn ordered the nearest flight attendant. "And the oxygen tank. Do you have an automatic blood pressure cuff?" "Yes, doctor," the attendant said, scrambling away. Evelyn turned to the patient. "Chloe." She was in severe respiratory distress. Her airway was closing. "Chloe, can you hear me? My name is Dr. Hayes." Chloe's eyes fluttered, but she couldn't speak. The medical kit arrived. It was basic. Evelyn ripped it open, her mind racing. She found what she was looking for, a vial of epinephrine and a syringe. The dosage was for intramuscular injection, not the auto-injector civilians carried. This was her world. Her hands were perfectly steady. She drew the correct dosage. "Mom," she said to the friend, "I need you to hold her leg steady. I'm injecting this into her thigh." She administered the shot cleanly, right through the fabric of Chloe's jeans. Now, they had to wait. It would take a minute or two to work. "Oxygen," she commanded. The flight attendant placed the mask over Chloe's face. Evelyn monitored her pulse. It was thready and fast. The plane was silent, save for the hum of the engines and Chloe's wheezing breaths. Is she going to be okay?" the friend whispered. "The epinephrine should reverse the reaction," Evelyn explained calmly. "But her airway is severely compromised. We need to—" Suddenly, Chloe's body went rigid. Her eyes rolled back, and she began to convulse. A full-blown seizure, likely from oxygen deprivation, to the brain. "She's having a seizure!" the friend shrieked. The other passengers gasped. "It's okay," Evelyn said, her voice sharp, cutting through the panic. "Clear the aisle. Lay her down." They moved Chloe to the floor. Evelyn cushioned her head with a pillow and timed the seizure. It lasted for 45 seconds. An eternity. When it stopped, Chloe was limp, but her breathing, while still strained, was deeper. The epinephrine was working. The cyanosis, the blue tint to her skin was fading. Color was returning to her cheeks. She's breathing! She's breathing! The friend sobbed, this time in relief. Evelyn didn't relax. We're not done. This is a rebound risk. She needs a steroid and an antihistamine. Check the kit. A flight attendant handed her the blister packs, Benadryl, and a low-dose oral prednisone. Chloe, Evelyn said, gently tapping her cheek. Chloe, you're okay. I need you to swallow these for me. Chloe's eyes opened. They were groggy, confused, but she was conscious. She nodded weakly, and, with a cup of water, swallowed the pills. For the next 20 minutes, Evelyn sat on the floor of the economy cabin, holding a stranger's hand, monitoring her vitals with a cheap stethoscope from the kit, and explaining to the flight crew what they would need to tell the paramedics on the ground. The pilot came over the intercom. Ladies and gentlemen, as you've seen, we had a medical situation on board, which was handled beautifully by a passenger. We are grateful to you, Doctor. We have begun our initial descent into New York and should be on the ground in 40 minutes. The entire economy cabin erupted in applause. People were patting Evelyn on the shoulder, saying, "Thank you, Doctor," and "You're a hero." Evelyn, exhausted but satisfied, finally stood up. She's stable. She needs to be the first one off the plane to a waiting ambulance. I'll stay with her until we land. No, Doctor. You've done more than enough. The purser, a different senior attendant named Susan, said with deep gratitude, "Please go back to your seat. We can handle it from here. We cannot thank you enough." Evelyn, her knees aching, finally nodded. She gave the friend a final, reassuring look and began the long walk back to first class. She had saved a life. She had done her job. She was not prepared for what was waiting for her. Evelyn walked through the curtain, separating economy from first class, and the atmosphere changed instantly. The quiet, appreciative awe of the main cabin was gone, replaced by the hushed, sterile luxury of the front. And Jennifer was there, waiting for her. Her arms were crossed, her face a mask of thunderous rage. The applause from economy was still audible, and it seemed to have fueled her fury. Evelyn just wanted to sit down. She was covered in a light sheen of sweat. Her adrenaline was crashing, and her head was pounding again. She moved toward her seat. 2B. Jennifer stepped directly in her path, blocking her. "You need to move," Evelyn said, her voice tired. "Well, well, well," Jennifer sneered, her voice low and venomous. "Aren't you just the hero of the day? Did you enjoy your little performance back there?" Evelyn stopped. She stared at the flight attendant, utterly bewildered. "Performance? I just saved a woman's life. A woman who was dying because of an allergic reaction." "Oh, please," Jennifer scoffed, stepping closer. "You probably loved it. All those people clapping for you." "Thank you, Doctor." She said the title like it was an insult. "You think you're so much better than everyone, don't you? Walking in here with your attitude, thinking you own the place." Evelyn was stunned into silence. This was no longer about bad service. This was something darker, something unhinged. "What are you talking about?" Evelyn finally said, her voice shaking with a mix of fatigue and disbelief. "I am a passenger on this plane. You are crew. I was asked for help and I gave it." "You were asked to return to your seat," Jennifer hissed. "I told you we had it handled, but you couldn't wait to push past me, to make a scene, to show everyone how important you are. You people are all the same." There it was. The word that hung in the air, unspoken since the gate. "You people." "You people," Evelyn repeated, her blood running cold. She felt a different kind of adrenaline now, a cold, hard anger. She finally, truly saw the woman in front of her, the petty, consuming prejudice. "You are a disgrace to that uniform," Evelyn said, her voice dropping to a surgeon's precise, cutting tone. You have been unprofessional, discriminatory, and now you are accusing me of… what? Saving a life? All because you couldn't stand to see a black woman in first class who isn't here to serve you? Mr. Henderson in 2A, who had been watching with wide, horrified eyes, gasped. Good God, woman, he said to Jennifer. But Jennifer was beyond reason. She was cornered. She was exposed. And like a cornered animal, she lashed out. How dare you! She shrieked, her voice cracking. You bitch! You don't get to talk to me like that! Evelyn, deciding the confrontation was pointless, took a step to the side to get to her seat. I am done talking to you. That, for Jennifer, was the final insult. The dismissal. The loss of control. Her rage boiled over, white-hot and absolute. She saw Evelyn's movement not as a retreat, but as a final, arrogant dismissal. Don't you turn your back on me. And with a movement so fast, Evelyn didn't have time to react. Jennifer swung her open hand. Crack. The sound was sharp, ugly, and absolute. It echoed through the stunned silence of the first-class cabin. Jennifer had slapped Evelyn Hayes across the face. Time stopped. Evelyn's head snapped to the side from the force. Her cheek was instantly, screamingly hot. Her ear rang. The cabin was completely, totally silent. The hum of the engines was the only sound. Mr. Henderson's champagne flute was frozen halfway to his lips. The woman in 2D had her hand over her mouth, her eyes wide with shock. Evelyn slowly, deliberately, brought her hand up to her stinging cheek. She turned her head back to face Jennifer. She did not cry. She did not scream. Her eyes were pools of cold, clear, assessing fury. Jennifer stood there, her hand still half raised, her chest heaving. The red, high-pink color was back on her cheeks, but her eyes were wide with a sudden, dawning, sickening realization of what she had just done. The mask of rage was crumbling, revealing the raw, abject panic beneath. You, Jennifer stammered. You pushed me. I did not, Evelyn said. Her voice was a whisper, but it carried through the entire cabin. I have not laid a hand on you. She turned to Mr. Henderson. Sir. Did you see me touch her? Absolutely not, Mr. Henderson boomed, finding his voice. I saw everything. I've seen it all since we boarded. This woman has been harassing you, and now she's assaulted you. This is criminal. You just assaulted a passenger, Evelyn said, her gaze locking back on Jennifer. Her voice was no longer shaking. It was solid. You just assaulted me, on an international flight. That is a federal offense. The word federal broke Jennifer's paralysis. Her panic turned into a desperate, frantic scramble. No, she's lying. She threatened me. She's unhinged, Jennifer shrieked, looking around at the other passengers for support and finding only condemnation. I'm calling the captain. I'm having security meet her. She's a threat. The purser, Susan, rushed in from the galley, having heard the commotion. What is going on here? Jennifer, what did you do? She assaulted me, Jennifer cried, a wild, false claim. That is a lie, Mr. Henderson roared, unbuckling his seatbelt to stand up. I am an attorney, and I am telling you, Miss Barlow, that you just ended your career. You assaulted this doctor. I am a witness. We are all witnesses. Evelyn Hayes simply stood there, her hand still on her red, smarting cheek. She took a deep breath, pulling her professional composure around her like a shield. She reached into her briefcase, pulled out her phone, and unlocked it. Jennifer scoffed, a last desperate attempt at bravado. Who are you calling? Your lawyer? Go ahead. It's my word against yours, and I'm the crew. Evelyn's fingers moved quickly over the screen, hitting a single contact. She put the phone to her ear. It rang once. "Marcus," she said, her voice finally trembling, not with fear, but with the sheer, crushing weight of the event. "Marcus, I need you." The name Marcus hung in the air, meaningless to everyone except the woman who spoke it. Jennifer Barlow, sensing a shift, narrowed her eyes. "Oh, is Marcus going to come and save you? What's he going to do?" Evelyn ignored her, her focus entirely on the voice on the other end of the line. "No, I'm not hurt. Not really. I'm on the plane. Flight 722. She paused, listening. Her eyes, filled with a profound sadness, closed for a moment. It was one of the flight attendants, a senior attendant. Marcus, she slapped me. The admission, spoken aloud, seemed to make it real. Mr. Henderson sat back down, shaking his head in disgust at the scene. The purser, Susan, looked like she was going to be physically ill. "I know. I can't believe it either," Evelyn continued, her voice regaining its strength. "We're landing in about..." She checked the map on the screen. 20 minutes. "Yes, please, I want you to meet the plane." Another pause. "The flight attendant's name," Evelyn said, and for the first time she lifted her eyes and locked them directly onto Jennifer's, "is Jennifer Barlow, Barlow. She spelled it out, slowly, precisely, as if dictating an obituary. Jennifer's face went from pale to a ghastly, mottled white. There was something in Evelyn's tone, a finality, a certainty, that her bravado couldn't punch through. A seed of genuine ice-cold fear was beginning to sprout in her stomach. "Okay. I'll see you at the gate." "Yes. I love you too," Evelyn said, and she hung up. She put the phone down on her armrest. She did not put it away. The purser, Susan, finally took charge. "Jennifer, go to the rear galley. Now, do not speak to another passenger. Do not speak to anyone. Do you understand me?" "But she's lying," Jennifer protested, but her voice was weak, reedy. The conviction was gone. "Now, Jennifer!" Susan roared, and Jennifer, finally, flinched and obeyed. She scurried away, disappearing behind the curtain, a retreating storm. Susan turned to Evelyn, her face a mask of profound apology. "Dr. Hayes, my God, I am so sorry. I cannot find the words. Are you all right? Do you need ice for your face?" Evelyn nodded, the adrenaline finally deserting her, leaving her feeling hollow and shaky. "Yes, ice would be good. Thank you." As Susan rushed to get it, Mr. Henderson leaned over again. "My dear, that was an atrocious, criminal act. I am giving my card to the purser, and I will give a full statement to the police. I am Martin Henderson. I'm with the New York Bar. Whatever you need, you let me know." "Thank you, Mr. Henderson." That means a lot," Evelyn whispered. Her cheek was beginning to throb, a deep, pulsing ache that matched the one in her heart. The rest of the flight was a blur of muted apologies. Susan brought Evelyn a pack of ice, wrapped in a fine linen napkin. She brought her a bottle of water. She asked, "Is there anything else? Anything at all?" "I just want to get off this plane," Evelyn said. The fasten seatbelt sign chimed for the final time. The plane's landing gear descended with a heavy thud. Jennifer, in the rear of the plane, was likely strapped into her jump seat, her world collapsing in on her. She was probably texting her union rep, concocting a story, building her defense. She was a 15-year veteran of the airline. She had rights. It was her word against passengers. A passenger who had provoked her. That's what she'd say. The passenger was belligerent, unhinged. She felt threatened. It was self-defense. She rehearsed the lies in her head, the fear in her stomach mixing with a bitter, self-righteous indignation. This wasn't her fault. It couldn't be. The plane touched down at JFK with a gentle bump. It was a smooth landing, belying the turbulent journey. As the aircraft taxied to the gate, the pilot came on the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to New York. We ask that you please remain in your seats with your seatbelts fastened. We will be deplaning slightly differently today. Please remain seated until a crew member instructs you otherwise. Thank you." A collective groan went through the cabin, but in first class, no one moved. They all knew why. The engine spooled down, the jet bridge connected with a soft thump, and then the sound of the cabin door being unlatched. Evelyn closed her eyes. He's here. The cabin door opened, not to the smiling face of a gate agent, but to two uniformed Port Authority police officers. Behind them stood a third man, and he was the reason the officers looked so tense. He was a tall man, broad-shouldered, and wore a simple, dark grey suit, so exquisitely tailored it probably cost more than a car. He was Marcus Thorne. And to the 80,000 employees of Apex Global Air, his face was as recognizable as the president's. He was the founder, the CEO, the sole owner. His face was a mask of cold, controlled fury. His eyes, normally warm and engaging in press photos, were like chips of steel. He didn't speak to the officers. He didn't speak to the purser. He walked past them all, his long strides eating up the aisle, and went straight to seat 2B. He knelt in the aisle, ignoring the plush carpeting, his 5,000 suit be damned. He put one hand on the armrest, and the other, very gently, on his wife's. "Evelyn," he said, his voice a low rumble, for her and her alone. "My God. Let me see." Evelyn turned her head. The bright cabin light illuminated the angry red handprint that was already beginning to bloom into a faint, ugly bruise on her dark skin. Marcus's jaw clenched so hard a muscle jumped. He shut his eyes for a brief, agonizing second, as if to absorb the blow himself. When he opened them, the cold fury was gone, replaced by a white-hot, singular purpose. He gently touched her cheek, his fingers just ghosting her skin. "Are you okay?" "I am now," she whispered. Marcus Thorne stood up. He was no longer a husband, he was the CEO. His eyes scanned the cabin, landing on Martin Henderson, who was watching intently. He nodded once at him, a silent, "Thank you for staying." Then his gaze swept forward, looking for the target. He saw the purser, Susan, standing by the galley, her face white. "Susan," he said. His voice wasn't a yell. It was worse. It was a quiet, powerful command that cut through the silent plane. "Where is she?" In the rear galley, Mr. Thorne," Susan stammered. "Bring her here." "Mr. Thorne," one of the officers interjected. "We can go get her." "No," Marcus said, holding up a hand. "I want her to walk." Susan, visibly shaking, got on the intercom. "Jennifer, to the forward cabin. Immediately." A moment later, Jennifer Barlow emerged from behind the curtain. She walked down the aisle, her face a confused, arrogant mess. She saw the police, and her victim script was ready. She saw Evelyn, and her lip curled. She saw Marcus Thorne, and she froze. Her blood didn't just run cold, it evaporated. She knew that face. It was the face on the giant posters in the training center. It was the face in the in-flight magazine's letter from the CEO. It was the face of the man who owned the company, who owned the plane, who owned her entire career. Mr. Thorne," she stammered. I don't understand. What are you doing here?" Marcus looked at her. He didn't speak for a full 10 seconds. He just looked. He looked at her perfectly coiffed hair, her gold braid uniform, her name tag, and the hand that she had used to strike his wife. "You," he said, his voice a low, terrifying monotone, "are Jennifer Barlow." "Yes, sir," she whispered. "And you," he said, gesturing to his wife, Dr. Evelyn Hayes, "slapped her. You assaulted her. In front of witnesses." Jennifer's carefully constructed reality, the one where she was the victim, shattered into a million pieces. The Marcus on the phone. It wasn't a boyfriend. It wasn't a lawyer. It was Marcus Thorne. "No!" she cried, the sound high-pitched and desperate. It wasn't. She was threatening me. She was unhinged. I was defending myself. "Sir," Martin Henderson's voice boomed from his seat. "I am Martin Henderson, attorney at law. That is a perjurious lie. I witnessed the entire interaction from boarding. Miss Barlow was the aggressor. She was discriminatory, she was unprofessional, and her assault on Dr. Hayes was completely unprovoked. Dr. Hayes was, in fact, returning from saving another passenger's life in economy." "Saving a life?" Marcus said, looking at Evelyn. She just gave a small, tired nod. Marcus looked back at Jennifer, and the last shred of humanity in his expression vanished. "You assaulted a passenger. You lied about it. And you did it after she performed a life-saving medical intervention on my aircraft. You didn't just disgrace the uniform, Miss Barlow. You are a sickness." He turned to the officers. "Officers, this woman," he pointed, "assaulted Dr. Evelyn Hayes. I want her arrested. I want her charged with assault." "Yes, sir," the officer said, stepping forward. "Ma'am, please put your hands behind your back." The metallic click of the handcuffs was the loudest sound Evelyn had ever heard. Jennifer's knees gave out. "No, please! Mr. Thorne, please, it was a mistake, a misunderstanding. I have 15 years. My pension, please." "Your 15 years," Marcus said, his voice like flint, "are the only reason you're not in prison already for the harassment that started at the gate. But you're going now." "Ma'am, let's go," the officer said, pulling her to her feet. As the officers led her toward the door, Jennifer had one last, venomous look for Evelyn. You did this. You ruined my life." Evelyn looked at her, her face bruised, her spirit weary. "No, Jennifer, you did." The officers marched a crying, struggling Jennifer Barlow off the plane and onto the jet bridge, where a dozen other passengers, now deplaning, snapped photos with their phones. Marcus turned to the first-class cabin, his face softened, but only slightly. "Ladies and gentlemen, I am Marcus Thorne, CEO of Apex Global Air. On behalf of our entire company, I am profoundly, deeply sorry for what you were forced to witness. This is not who we are." He looked at Susan, the purser. "Susan, you're grounded, effective immediately, pending a full investigation as to why you let this get so far. You're responsible for your cabin. You failed." Susan just nodded, tears welling in her eyes. Marcus then looked at Mr. Henderson. "Mr. Henderson, my legal team will be in touch. We will need your statement." "You'll have it, son," Martin said, nodding. Finally, Marcus Thorne went back to his wife. He gently took her hand and helped her to her feet, gathering her briefcase. He put a possessive, protective arm around her shoulders. "Let's go home," he whispered. He led his wife off the plane, past the shocked faces of the other passengers, and into the night, leaving the wreckage of Jennifer Barlow's life behind them. The arrest was only the beginning. For Jennifer Barlow, it was the start of a freefall, and she learned with brutal speed that there was no parachute. The incident on Flight 732 didn't just stay on the plane. By the time Marcus and Evelyn were in their car, a black sedan idling on the tarmac, the videos were already hitting social media. A passenger in 3D had filmed the entire confrontation, from Jennifer's shriek of Don't you turn your back on me!" To the sickening crack of the slap, to the horrified, silent aftermath. By midnight, Apex Attendant slaps doctor was trending. By morning, it was the lead story on every major news network. The footage was grainy, but it was undeniable. Jennifer, released on her own recognizance, expected the Apex Air Union to save her. She called her rep, hysterical, feeding him the self-defense story. The rep listened patiently, then hung up and watched the video. He called her back 5 minutes later. "Jennifer," he said, his voice flat. "There's nothing we can do for you. The video it's indefensible. You assaulted a passenger. The union cannot and will not protect an employee who commits a criminal act. You're on your own." The next call was from Apex Global Air's head of human resources. It was not a long call. She was fired, effective immediately, for gross misconduct and criminal assault. Her benefits were terminated. Her pension was frozen, pending the outcome of the legal case. She was informed she was blacklisted from Apex and all its partner airlines for life. But Marcus Thorne was not done. This wasn't just about one rogue employee. This was about a systemic failure. He launched a top-to-bottom, no-holds-barred investigation. He personally interviewed Martin Henderson. He had his security team pull the audio from the gate's CCTV, which clearly captured the condescending, "This is first class, ma'am" exchange. He reviewed Jennifer's file. What he found sickened him. Jennifer Barlow had a history. 12 formal passenger complaints in 5 years, all borderline incidents. Complaints of rudeness, curt behavior, and preferential treatment. Notably, 9 of the 12 complaints were from non-white passengers. In every case, her previous supervisor, a friend of hers, had dismissed them as customer oversensitivity. Jennifer Barlow hadn't just snapped. She was a predator who had been allowed to hunt for years. The legal hammer fell just as hard. The state of New York charged her with assault in the 3rd degree. Evelyn Hayes had to testify. She sat in the courtroom, composed and professional, in a simple navy blue suit. She recounted the entire event, from the gate to the slap, in a calm, factual, medical tone. She spoke of the subtle slights, the condescending honey, the refusal of service, and the final, violent confrontation. Jennifer's lawyer tried to paint Evelyn as an arrogant, privileged woman who had looked down on a hard-working flight attendant. "So, Dr. Hayes," the lawyer sneered, "you, a world-famous surgeon, were bothered by being called honey." "I was bothered," Evelyn said, her voice clear, "by an employee using a term of false endearment to establish dominance and belittle me in front of other passengers. It was the first in a long line of microaggressions that culminated in a physical assault. Then, Martin Henderson testified. He was a lion in the courtroom, a 40-year veteran of the bar. He described Jennifer as a racially motivated aggressor and the incident as nothing short of a hate crime. The judge, a no-nonsense woman, took 30 minutes to find Jennifer guilty. She was sentenced to 2 years of probation, 500 hours of community service, and mandatory, high-intensity anger management and racial bias counseling. She was also given a permanent restraining order, barring her from coming within 1,000 feet of Dr. Evelyn Hayes or Marcus Thorne. And of course, she had a criminal record, a violent offense record. She couldn't be a flight attendant. She couldn't pass the background check to be a ride-share driver. She couldn't even get a job as a cashier in most retail stores. The videos of her face, twisted in rage, were forever burned into the internet's memory. She was untouchable. She was toxic. Her friends, many of them also flight attendants, distanced themselves. They couldn't be seen with her. She was a pariah. Jennifer Barlow, once the queen of her first-class cabin, was now just a woman with a criminal record, mounting legal fees, and no future. A year passed. For Evelyn and Marcus, it was a year of healing and progress. The incident on Flight 722 had been a trauma, but it had also become a catalyst. Marcus, horrified by the bigotry he'd found festering in his own company, had launched the Dr. Evelyn Hayes initiative. It was a new, mandatory, company-wide training program, built from the ground up by leading diversity and inclusion experts. It focused on unconscious bias recognition, de-escalation tactics, and true customer empathy. It became the new gold standard for the airline industry, and Marcus, in a move that shocked his competitors, made its curriculum public domain, free for any of them to use. Bigotry, he'd said in a press release, is a non-competitive issue. Evelyn, for her part, poured herself into her work. The bruise on her cheek faded in a week, but the memory lingered. She used that memory as fuel, performing 2 of the most complex pediatric surgeries of her career, separating conjoined twins in a 30-hour marathon. She and Marcus, already close, became an unbreakable unit. The event had shown them how quickly things could change, and they cherished their time together. For Jennifer Barlow, it was a year of free fall. The criminal conviction for assault made her toxic. She was not just fired, she was, for all intents and purposes, erased from the industry. Her union appeals failed. Her legal fees wiped out her 401k. Her savings, drained by the restitution, she was forced to pay Apex Global Air for the brand damage she had caused, evaporated. She lost her condo in Queens. She was evicted, her belongings put on the curb. She drifted, first to a friend's couch, then to a weekly rate motel, and finally to a single, mold-stained room in a shared basement apartment in the Bronx. She tried to get other jobs, but the background check always flagged the assault conviction. She couldn't be a cashier. She couldn't be a ride-share driver. She couldn't even work in a call center. The videos of her face, twisted in rage, were forever burned into the internet's memory, just one Google search away. She was a pariah. After 8 months of crushing unemployment and mounting debt, she finally found a job. It was a 3rd shift, minimum wage position at a 24-hour gas station convenience store on a lonely, dark stretch of the Cross Bronx Expressway. The owner didn't run background checks. He didn't have to. He paid under the table, in cash, far less than minimum wage. It was a cold Tuesday night in November, almost exactly a year later. A vicious, freezing rain was lashing against the city. Evelyn was on call, and she'd been at the hospital for 36 straight hours, assisting in a marathon surgery on a premature infant with a complex neural tube defect. It was a success. At 4:30 a.m., exhausted but triumphant, she finally left the sterile environment of the hospital. Marcus was waiting for her, as he often did, in their warm sedan. "You're a rock star, Dr. Hayes," he said softly, handing her a bottle of water. "I'm a zombie," she murmured, her head falling back against the headrest. The drive was a blur, the rhythmic thwack-thwack of the windshield wipers lulling her towards sleep. "Evie," Marcus said gently, "you're asleep. We're almost home. But you need more than water. We need caffeine, or you'll be asleep before your head hits the pillow." Coffee," she mumbled. "I need coffee. And more water." "I see a place," he said, his voice hesitant. It's open." He pulled off the expressway, the car's tires crunching on the wet, debris-strewn pavement of a gas and go. The sign flickered, the G in go, completely dark. "I'll run in," Evelyn said, already unbuckling. "I need to stretch my legs. I'll be right back." "Are you sure?" "This place looks rough, Evie." "I'm a surgeon. I've seen rough." She smiled, a weak echo of her usual bright self. She kissed his cheek and pulled her coat tighter, bracing against the rain as she dashed from the car to the store's entrance. The automatic door wheezed open, and she was hit by the smell of stale beer, old coffee, and cheap hot dogs that had been rolling for hours. The fluorescent lights buzzed, casting a sick, greenish-yellow pall over everything. There was one other person inside, a man in a wet construction uniform, buying a pack of cigarettes. And behind the counter, there was the cashier. Evelyn's mind was on one track: water, coffee, car. She walked to the refrigerated case, her shoes squeaking on the grimy tile. She grabbed a large bottle of water. She turned to the coffee station. The pots were nearly empty, coated in a dark, burnt-on residue. She found a cup, poured the last of the black sludge, and walked to the counter. Her head was down, digging a $5 bill out of her pocket. "That'll be $4.18, a voice said. The voice was dead, flat, exhausted. But something about the cadence, the underlying reedy pitch, snagged on Evelyn's memory. It was like a dissonant note in a familiar song. Evelyn looked up. She was looking at Jennifer Barlow. The woman behind the counter was a ghost of the sharp, blonde, imperious flight attendant. Her hair, no longer a coiffed helmet, was a dull, stringy brown, with an inch of dark roots, pulled back in a greasy ponytail. She wore a faded, ill-fitting blue polyester vest over a stained grey hoodie. Her face was pale, puffy, and etched with lines of exhaustion and bitterness. A cheap plastic name tag was pinned to her vest. It just said, "Jen." Time stopped. The buzzing of the lights, the hum of the refrigerators, the hiss of the rain outside. It all faded. Jennifer, on autopilot, was looking at the cash register. $4.18, she repeated, annoyed. Evelyn said nothing. She couldn't. She just stood there, her fatigue vanishing, replaced by a cold, sharp shock. Jennifer, sensing the customer's stillness, looked up, her eyes full of impatience. I said, and her eyes met Evelyn's. The recognition was not instant. For a fraction of a second, Jennifer just saw another customer. Then her brain caught up. She saw the high cheekbones, the intelligent almond-shaped eyes, the face from the courtroom, the face from the plane, the face of the woman who was married to Marcus Thorne. The collapse was total. The blood drained from Jennifer's face, leaving her a pale, sickly, mottled grey. Her jaw went slack. Her hands, which had been resting on the counter, flew to her mouth in a gesture of pure, abject horror. "Oh, my God," she whispered. Her eyes darted to the door, a wild animal panic in them, as if expecting Marcus Thorne and a team of police to storm in. Evelyn simply stood there. She felt nothing. Not pity, not anger, not even satisfaction. It was just a profound, hollow sadness. The end of a story. She slid the $5 bill across the sticky counter. Jennifer's eyes looked at the money, then back at Evelyn. Her hands began to shake. Not a tremble, but a violent, uncontrollable tremor. She reached for the $5 bill, her fingers spasming. She fumbled with the cash register, her fingers stabbing at the keys, missing them. I, she stammered, tears of pure humiliation welling in her eyes. She finally got the drawer open. It screeched, loud in the silent store. She was supposed to give Evelyn 82 cents in change. She fumbled in the coin tray, her shaking fingers scattering dimes and nickels. A quarter popped out of her hand, hit the counter, and clinked as it rolled onto the dirty floor, settling in a small puddle of melted ice. Jennifer stared at the coin. She looked defeated, broken. The tears spilled over, tracing clean paths down her unwashed cheeks. She was frozen. "Keep it," Evelyn said. Her voice was soft, but it cut through the silence like a scalpel. Jennifer flinched, as if she'd been slapped. Evelyn picked up her coffee and her water. She did not say another word. She turned, her back straight, and walked out of the store. The automatic door wheezed shut behind her, sealing Jennifer in her fluorescent minimum-wage tomb. Evelyn walked through the rain, the cold drops feeling good on her face. She got in the car, shut the door, and buckled her seatbelt, the click of the mechanism loud in the quiet car. "You okay, Evie?" Marcus asked, noticing her stillness. "You look like you just saw a ghost." Evelyn took a sip of the scalding, terrible coffee. It was bitter, almost burnt, but it was hot. She looked at the gas station in the rear-view mirror, at the lone, pathetic box of light in the dark. She thought of the woman inside, crying over a dropped coin. "Something like that," Evelyn said, her voice heavy with a fatigue that had nothing to do with her 36-hour shift. It was just a memory. She leaned her head back and closed her eyes. "Let's go home, Marcus. I'm so tired." Marcus took her hand. He glanced at the store, then at his wife's profile, and he understood. He squeezed her hand, put the car in drive, and pulled away, leaving the gas and go and its lone attendant behind, to be swallowed by the rain and the approaching dawn. This isn't just a story about a slap. It's a story about the devastating, real-world consequences of prejudice. Jennifer Barlow's life wasn't ruined by Dr. Evelyn Hayes. It was shattered by her own actions, her own hate, and her own arrogance. She saw a black woman in first class and couldn't see the world-class surgeon. She saw a threat where there was only a hero. Hard karma isn't just about losing a job. It's about losing everything, only to find yourself face to face with the person you wronged, and realizing they've moved on while you are trapped forever in the single worst moment of your life. Actions have consequences. Words have weight. And sometimes, the person you underestimate is the one who holds all the power. What did you think of this story? Do you believe this was justice, or was it a karma that went too far? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if these stories of drama and real-life consequences are what you love, please hit that like button, share this video with someone who needs to see it, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss a single story.